Senator Moncion.
Thank you. My question has to do with the choice that is made with regards to immigrants. You mentioned that you have initiatives such as Destination Canada that you're recruiting overseas. What are the criteria? So we earlier said that immigrants are going to choose larger centers for all kinds of reasons. And you spoke about the regionalization of immigration. So what are the criteria that will make it an immigrant choose one province over another? I would say that there's a lot of motivation. Can be family reunification. It can be a job offer. Could be, well, I think that when you're overseas, oftentimes people know Toronto, Vancouver. So it takes a greater effort to speak about the other options that exist. But I would say that, yes, we do have some programs that are pilot programs, and others have become permanent programs to try to promote different regions in Canada. A good example would be the Atlantic Canada pilot project. It allows us to have a better road to permanent residency, but better coordination between the employer, the community, the federal government, and the provincial governments. So how we can influence choices is by working jointly with other partners to make sure that when people do make a choice, they can understand that they will have opportunities with employers that have integrity, that participate in the program. So I believe that the motivation is different, but we then find ourselves in a situation where affordable housing in large cities, such as Montreal and Toronto, as you know, is such an issue. We want to try to encourage this, and we work with larger employers to see what we can do to improve the situation. Integration within the community makes it so that we have more positive retention rates. The other thing I'd like to say has to do with programs where a spouse can also get a work permit. If both spouses are established, the children are in school, it allows for better retention. So we're looking at this for New Brunswick. We're working with the 6 large employers, the Irvings, the Groupe Savoir, and others, to see how we can retain these populations in cities and in cities where French language is a minority language. Yes? Students. We met colleges and universities, and they spoke about challenges because they recruit. They try to recruit foreign students, and when it's time to retain the students, because oftentimes they want to stay after their studies, it's really difficult for them. It's hard for them. And this was identified in Quebec, and it was in the news, but it was also identified by different stakeholders that we met. Could you indicate to us what are the challenges linked to retention or integration of these young Francophones who come here to study, and possible solutions that have been implemented to correct the issue, or maybe challenges to try to have them stay? There are surely political issues as well between different countries. Yes. So since my arrival at the department, the file of international students is a file that's been extremely important, and I've had many conversations with people because it's very complex. It's maybe a nice problem to have, but there's a huge demand for international students. They want to come to Canada. I think that last year we dealt with 739,000 requests for study permits here in Canada, either new requests or extensions to existing permits. So the system is under pressure with regards to processing requests. So the first challenge is a simple question of volume and trying to determine what system will allow us to keep the integrity first. I believe that, as we saw in the media, there are abuses when it comes to the study programs, and this then leads to difficulties not just for the federal government but for institutions, students who find themselves in a new private college or in a situation that is very complicated and makes them vulnerable. So we have to look at the integrity of our system and work closely with credible institutions that have shown integrity to have a system that works well for students and for the country. I think that we also have to look at something in legislation, and this is the double intention in terms of a student who comes here temporarily and who would like to stay on a permanent basis. So why departments are negative with regards to a file? Because they consider this double intention. Maybe we should look at that closely and see if changes should be made. An international student who comes here, who studies for 4 years, who might be able to work within a community, is a very promising candidate for immigration and for retention purposes. This is a second challenge. Another model that interests me a lot is that in Nova Scotia they have EduNova. This is an integration program for students. Support is provided on arrival within an institution, an academic institution, and afterwards there's matching with employers, there's support with regards to linguistic services. They even have different apps and technology that allows integration within a community. They connect them with different students. So I think that when we look at all of the programs to integrate and retain students, this is another element that we need to look at. But it's an interesting model, I believe. Of course, we need investment for this, but if we want to keep them over the longer term, it's necessary. We also need to look at the data. Who succeeded? What population succeeded? Why? And then we can inform our decisions with regards to recruitment according to the data within the department. But these are not easy files. They are complex, and we need to see we need to review our programs and policies and see how we can change some elements to make sure that we're able to keep students here in Canada.